So not everyone can do a degree from an IIT. You have shown that with hard work one can become a director of IIT. So can you please share your experience?
No, I come from a very small town. My village had about 5,000 people at that time. I studied in that village. Until 12th standard, I studied in Telugu medium in a small little town, which is there was nothing available there, and even the teachers and everything was a challenge. So after that, for me, IIT was never an option. I first heard about IITs when I was in my 11th standard, and so I never even thought about IITs at that time. So and then like what every kid in those places would do, after that you take the local exam, you join the local college, and after my BTech, then by the time I came to know about IITs, and I told myself that if I do MTech, then I will do in one of the IITs kind of a thing. So I waited until I got admission in IIT Bombay, and but that was a turning point for my life. And once I joined IIT Bombay, I could see where I stand in the country. I mean, until that time, my benchmark was always with the local people in a small state. But once I joined IIT Bombay, now I could compare myself with best people who have come from all over the country, and where do I stand in comparison with them. And that in a way made me, aspire for higher things. So once I realized that I am as good as anybody else, and so I thought, maybe I should pursue higher education. So after MTech, I continued for PhD. And so that was important. So I had options. When I was doing after BTech, I had jobs. After MTech, I had jobs. But I thought I should do PhD. And after MTech from IIT Bombay, at IIT Bombay, I went to Germany for my PhD, and then to US for my postdoc, and then I came back and joined IIT Bombay. But my turning point was at IIT Bombay. So if I had not gone to IITs, I would have been maybe some principal of some private college. So that up to that level, I would have definitely come, but I wouldn't have been what I am today. I think if I had not gone to IIT Bombay, because things were different. And I came across some best people. She would know them. I think some of the faculty members we had there, whether it was Professor Vasi or Professor Lal or Professor Dinesh Sharma or Professor, they were all good people, and there was a huge influence of teachers on us. I think that is important. You need to know where you stand. I mean, so once you know that you are as good as anybody else, and then you should now be able to aspire for bigger things. And I think that realization needs to happen at some point of time. But when you also feel that no, I am not as good as at least 80% of my classmates in this institution, then maybe you realize what you are worth, and then you decide to do what is good for you. But I think that realization, that self-awareness is very important, and that happens to everybody at some point, and for me it happened at IIT Bombay.
So like from your experiences and your journey of your life, what do you think where Indian universities stand in comparison to other universities?
Indian universities are also very diverse, very difficult to compare as one entity with any other entity. But for example, if I look at IITs, the older IITs, I think the research wise we are doing pretty well. If you count the number of publications per faculty, and if you look at the citations or even impact of that research in terms of citations, we are in the top 50. All IITs will be worldwide will be in the 50, 60 kind of a range. But the problem now is while the research is happening quite well, the relevance of our research is a bigger problem. Because who are we working for? How do we choose our research problems? Nobody comes and gives us any research problems. The biggest challenge that exists in this country is the people who fund your research are not the people who can give you problems. Much of our research funding comes from DST, but DST doesn't generate problems. You go to DST with a problem and then you get funding. But how did you get your problem? You mostly go to library, read some papers and find a problem. So most of our research happens that way, and that is the reason why our research is not impactful in the society. And that needs to change. How we choose our problems, once that changes, then things will change. In fact, instead of DST, for example, if Ministry of Water Resources gives you a project, they will not give you just like that some money and tell you to do something. They will also give you the problems in that sector, and then you can work on a real focused problem, and that problem will see some implementation somewhere, and that's how people get to use that, and that is how things happen. So people who are giving us funds also need to be able to design a problem set for us, which is currently not the case. In India, these two are very different. The ministries which know the problems don't give any research funding, and DST which doesn't have any problems of their own, gives us the funding. And industry could have been a good combination. Industry would have problems, would give you money, but unfortunately in this country, the industry academia collaboration is not really taking off, the way one would have liked, and that is where things need to change a little bit. So I think, but hopefully things will be different in the future, and that is one thing which you see as a difference. And if I was in UCLA for a couple of years, any problem that we were all working there were all given by industry. So they said that this is a problem we are facing, here is the money, can you solve it? And they were reviewing the projects every 3 months, and so everybody knew what they were doing, industry was interested, and that is completely missing in this country. So I think that is what we need to change for us to be. So that is, but this is a very specific US kind of a thing. The US has that industry academia collaboration. Japan also has it to a very large extent, but other countries are also struggling with the same thing like what we have. And I think that way the US universities have that ecosystem, for working on the right set of problems. And when an industry gives you the problem, that is current, nobody else has that problem. But when I go to library and read some papers, there are also 1,000 people who are reading the same papers and looking at the same problem. Then you are competing with everybody, then the nature of journals where you can publish, all of that will become limited.